Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. You know how much I love the arts. We talk about the arts all the time. And of course, one of my favorite human beings and places to do the arts is at Mills Gallery Orlando, which is in the Mills 50 district. Boris Garbe is the gallerist. And today we are blessed to have Amber Santiago on the show with us. We're going to talk about, oh God, women in the arts and opposites attract. And she has such great insights into the art world. And I always love to get those because I feel like the arts don't get the attention they need in this city. And so we're going to try to bring all the attention in. So welcome, Amber. How you doing today?
Thank you so much, Ted. I'm doing wonderful. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me on your show. It is such a pleasure. I've heard so much about you through Boris and through Juan and what projects you guys have worked on together. And so I know it's going to be quite a treat.
Well, what a blessing you are, Boris. I'll cut you a check later for that comment. So tell us a little bit about you. The audience always likes to know the 411. Maybe a little background on you, maybe how you got into the arts, and then we'll just kind of progress that way.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. I am Amber Santiago. I am a UCF graduate from the School of Visual Arts and Design. I did go for painting, and I am an Orlando native. I have lived here for over 15 years, so I am familiar with all the cool spots. Although I will say I am Puerto Rican. I was born there, but my parents moved us here when I was at a very early age. And so it has made me into this rare hybrid where I fully understand Spanish, but I can't speak a lick of it. Yeah, but I am learning.
I love that. All right, so tell me a little bit about the arts because I'm always curious about origin story on arts. So some people have come on and said I could draw at the age of 2 before I could write or speak, and then some people are like, well, I kind of discovered it later on. What's your story as far as painting and the arts?
Yeah, so my mom is an artist. She was when I was growing up, so I saw her doing a lot of drawing of photographs that she's taken, and mostly botanicals, which is actually something I'm painting about right now. But growing up, I've always been involved in different types of art: ceramics, painting, drawing. I went to Howard, and so there was this thing called zero period where you had an extra class before every other 8 classes that you had, and I chose to do the art class. And frankly, as I went into high school, I went to Boone, and I wasn't very good at it. I was pretty bad at it, and so it was hard to see other artists be a lot better, like young prodigies, just fully knowing what their work is about and what they're doing. But it is something that you can't let other people stop you from continuing to get better at.
So how do you go from you're thinking you're not good at it to being an artist? Because I feel like a lot of artists started out in either one form and then said that's not for me and then went into another modality. What was that like? How did you discover, all right, this is where I should be?
Yeah, I considered myself more of a late bloomer because after high school, I immediately started getting better. Like as soon as I left, after the pressure had gone away and I was kind of free to do what I wanted to do. And it was in the early years at UCF, like those intro classes, that I was like, oh my God, I can visually see how I'm creating better. Like my technique is better, to get into like the nitty gritty of it, that I was like, oh, there's improvement, but I'm not like registering it immediately just because it's a lot of technical things that you're thinking about, but applying it and seeing it in real life is so much more different than just keeping it in your head. Correct. So it was a shock,
you had to birth it. You had to birth it out of you, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
A lot of artists describe their art form as it was in my heart, my soul, my head, and I had to get it out. I had to get it out on canvas or musically or whatever it might be. Because you have that gift. Now, you said your mom's an artist. Was anybody else in your family arts, or just
I think it was just my mom.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah. My sister is musically inclined, so it's like a different type of
Different.
talent, you
So
know. So
creative.
yeah, yeah. So I definitely got it straight from my mother.
Now, is that your piece behind you? I should have asked that before we went
No,
live.
no, it's all right. This is actually a Vicky Wilson's art. We did have a show for
Love
her
Vicky.
last year.
Yes.
Yes, yes, and her art is incredible. So we're very happy to have her piece at the center of the gallery. Like this is on her own wall, apart from everything else. So yeah, it's Vicky Wilson's work.
You did such a great job of being a voice for Mills Gallery. For the record, you're on social media. I mean, Boris does a great job too, but I love any kind of advocacy. So let's talk about advocacy and
Mhm.
activism. We'll say advocacy
Yes,
for now.
yes.
Tell me about that. Why is it important to be an advocate in the arts?
It is incredibly important because, you know, specifically with Opposites Attract, the duo exhibition that I am curating for both artists Liam L. Cohen and Jenna Sweetnam, women artists are incredibly underrepresented. And so I want to use this exhibition to give them a voice, give them a platform to, you know, really get into the nitty gritty of how they feel on a day-to-day basis. Because yeah, we're women, we are aware of our emotional states, and it is not something to look down upon, because yes, women deserve equal and fair spaces in the arts.
It's interesting to me because you would think the creatives would be exempt from the discrepancy between men and women
Mhm.
artists, but unfortunately, it's just the same no matter what genre or what industry you're
Mhm.
in. So tell me about opposites
Yeah.
attract. Why are they opposites? Is there art form opposite? Is there way that they paint? Is there what is the opposites attract? Where does that come from?
Yeah, it's not only their work itself, where yes, they do very different things, but it's also themselves and how they decide to approach things that happen to them in real life, like experiences, the good and the bad and the terrible, that there are different ways to confront it as women artists, in that there is no singular way to process that. And you know, it's not always going to be nice and pretty. Some of it is pretty grimy, and that's what we're going to be getting into, because as the curator, you know, I want to say that I am not afraid to show art that is not nice, especially coming from women artists, where there are a lot of barriers for them to cross in terms of just even getting into a gallery. And so I am also going to be mentoring them on how to get into one and how to present themselves accordingly.
I think that's such a beautiful thing to do. So if you have a an artist out there, a woman artist who
Mhm.
is maybe struggling, which apparently, based on what we're talking about, and of course my knowledge of what's going on in the arts
So
world,
many.
they're
So
struggling.
mhm.
What can they do? Like, what would you recommend, or what advice would you give if there's a
Yeah.
female artist out there trying to get in front of people, trying to get at least equal opportunity? What can they do?
What they can do, I can't entirely speak for them, but I know that from my perspective is that you have to go in and give 110%, same as everywhere, like as in a job interview. You know, you walk in, you present yourself nicely. And so just having that drive to be able to like be open to learning more about not just your work but the business of it all, and being, you know, just um, keeping your ears open to advice and mentorship, because here at Mills Gallery, Boris and Juan have done a great job at mentoring me into how to assist not only how I present my work, but also other women artists' work, and that they should really, you know, just be open to ideas, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a, you know, being an artist itself
Hmm.
is an uphill battle.
Absolutely.
So being a woman artist obviously has its own set of challenges.
It's so bad, Ted, because women's art historically has always sold significantly less than men's art. And you know, with the art market, it continues to undersell and undervalue women's art, despite the majority of students that are in art school, they are women. And it's a huge disparity that needs to be talked about more.
What do we do in Orlando? Obviously, Mills Gallery is just such a beautiful place for artists to express themselves. Boris and Juan have created an environment there where even the underdog has a place to express themselves and an opportunity to showcase their art. What about the rest of Orlando? What can they do? Are there things that women need to do when you mentioned that women should be proud and strong of their art, but sometimes they're faced with it's a man gallerist or
Absolutely. It's the old boys club, as they say.
it's so funny to have that in art to me. I always think of artists as creatives and sensitive. The fact that you have to deal with the same things that people deal with out in the job market, where there's a disparity and discrepancy. I've had artists that don't, it's men and women, but women especially, when I've interviewed them, they're so passionate about the art that how it's received or how it's promoted is not as important as just getting somebody's ear. But I would always tell them, and I know Boris has too, that you have to be your best advocate as the artist. You have to be able to speak up, which you mentioned earlier. How do people do that without ticking off the people who they're trying to get in front of?
It's just being aware that what you're doing it's not only for yourself, but it is really important to help others, and that you are doing something good for the community because you want others to shine, not just yourself. And it is being aware of the situation at hand. Like I said, it is an old boys club, and that's okay. But there are times where we still deserve fairness. We still deserve a space for us to show our work. And Mills Gallery has done a great job at being, gender equal. And, I've also been trying really hard to keep that status. And it's, you can't go in guns blazing to, to establish yourself. There's a way to get around things. There are rules, and that is part of what we are teaching artists here, that it's not just all aggression and being angry at the system. Like it's a little bit more complicated than that.
It is, because there is a whole business. So as a creative, you're focused on the creative part. There's a whole business side of things. And so the business side has to come out when you are negotiating for your artwork and to do an exhibit. And so that's what I would encourage women, really all artists, but we're talking about women right here with the discrepancy, is to understand your value, understand that what you bring to the table is just as important as a man's art, somebody else's art. And if you can focus just on the value you bring without all of the external factors, then you can understand the power of showcasing your art and how important it is. And I'm very thankful that Mills Gallery and Boris and Juan give you all that opportunity. So tell me about Opposites Attract. Has it launched yet? If not, when does it launch? How do we see this exhibit?
Yes, so it does open on March 12th at 6:30 p.m. here at the Mills Gallery, and both artists will be here, so there is a chance to speak with them about their work and how they confront the things that happen to them, because it's not only important for them to have a space for that, but to have the opportunity to speak to people one-on-one, because like you said, artists are, they are not taught exactly how to do public speaking. Like, you have to give interviews, you have to talk one-on-one with potential collectors, and it's incredibly difficult. But that is also what we do here, is that we mentor them along, me, Boris, and Juan, and we take care of them.
You do. I know that for a fact. All right. So last question, personal question. And if there's something I haven't covered, you'll let me know.
Absolutely.
Whenever I have an artist on, I always want to know who their favorite artist might be. And a lot of times there's personal reasons that are attached to it. There's a reason why a certain artist is somebody you look up to or look to. It doesn't always have to be the type of art, but maybe about the artist themselves. So who's somebody that what comes to mind when I say that this is one of my favorite artists? Who is it?
That is a great question, because, in school, they just kind of throw so many different artists at you to kind of pull and learn from. And, always the one that comes to mind, funny enough, when people are asked that, like regular people that do enjoy art, but they aren't like super engaged into it. Usually they pull up like male artists that are known in like households and like just recognized internationally. But when you ask like when you ask for like a women artist example, it's very rare to get that type of answer. But I will say, I am a big fan of Yayoi Kusama. I know she's also worldwide recognized, and I just really enjoyed learning more about herself as opposed to her art and her story, because it is tragic. There are stories out there that are tragic in relation to women. But it's not all just pain and suffering, but it is important to hear and understand where they're coming from.
That's my favorite part about whenever I go to like an art auction or an art exhibition. I'm always fascinated by the story behind the art, because to me that brings so much more life to the painting or the sculpture or whatever.
Absolutely.
Know what they're feeling or what their process, why they used this particular type of art, why all the eyes are closed, which is an artist which I love, but I am literally drawing a blank right now, but I will put that in the comments. I like art that speaks to me. The only way it can speak to me in depth is if I understand the story behind it.
Absolutely. And I do have a question for you, Ted. I know you have an art collection, and so I want to hear, like, you have women artists in that collection?
So I do. I have one of my favorite women. There's two women artists. Hua Chen, I think that's a woman. And then Nikita, who was a prodigy and a student of Picasso. I have two pieces of hers.
Wow.
And I'm always amazed at the story again behind the art. When it's been a while. We collected a long time ago and have sat on most of it. I don't buy a piece, no matter what it is, unless I feel connected to it. In the beginning, though, a lot of people don't know how to do that. And so they buy pieces that might aesthetically appeal to them. But as you get more and more into art and collecting and going to exhibits, you realize that you must be connected to the piece. In my experience, I have to feel something when I'm looking at the art. I have to understand it. But those are the two that I would say I have.
No, it's incredibly important that you do connect to the work, and it is very difficult for people to do that, especially those that don't know about the art world and what art can do for you personally. And it is a realization as an artist myself that when you leave the bubble of academia and that you escape from people always supporting you, being like, yes, do it, do what your heart desires, and leaving that, and then people like not giving, frankly, a shit about your work.
Right?
It's so shocking, and
it's disheartening. That's why you have to have a belief. It's super important from a selling, from an advocacy standpoint, from a promoting yourself. You really do have to believe wholeheartedly in your art and know a little bit about business to be able to have those conversations. I learned about art from cruise ships to begin with. Park West was a gallery that's world renowned and always a challenge in the art world because you either love them or hate them most of the time. But what it did for me was introduce me to artists that I didn't know about. And I'm thankful for them for that, because in the beginning I bought art that I feel like it belonged in a condo on the beach. I didn't know any better. But as I learned and they educated me on a regular basis, I was like, okay, well, I like that. I like the connection there. I understand the story behind it. And to me, that's how I developed my love of art. I mean, I have to give them all of the kudos because they really did do a great job. Of course, they were trying to make me spend money. But at the end of the day, they were educating me, and that gave me an opportunity to really blossom and figure out what art I loved. I appreciate all art, but what art spoke to me.
Yeah. And on that, when it comes to the exhibitions, and specifically the one that I will also be having, is that you can support women artists by also buying their work, not just women, not just male created work, but supporting women artists by buying what they make, what they create, what they put their heart into. That also really means a lot, because that gives them courage, that like, yes, I'm being seen, I'm being heard.
Yes. Which is what you want. All right, Amber, you're such a joy. You all can find Mills Gallery, Orlando.com is where you want to reach out. You can find them on social media. I'm sure you can find Amber on social media. We'll put all of those links in the comments below.
Sorry, Ted, I also want to include just one more thing.
Please.
Mills Gallery is going to UCF on March 24th for a talk at the School of Visual Arts and Design, to speak to students more about the art business and what it takes to get into a gallery and how to exhibit their work. So it's going to be really monumental, going back as a former student and then giving a presentation on what I've learned here and what we at Mills Gallery at Boris and Juan can do for those artists.
I love it. So March 24th out at UCF. Amber, what a joy to have you on. Super excited for you to be here. Thank you for being such an advocate, not only for the arts, but for women in the arts. And of course, shout out to Boris and Juan at Mills Gallery for all they do in the arts community and supporting artists across the board, no matter what. And that is such a gift. Such a gift to our community. All right, Amber Santiago, thank you so much. Opposites Attract starts again what day?
March 12th at 6:30 here at Mills Gallery.
Week.
Yes, it's next week.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Amber. Thank you, Boris, in the background. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Mills Gallery. You guys get out and support the arts. You're always asking me for things that you can do to support the arts. This is a great way for you to come out, support Amber, support the artists that she is showcasing at Opposites Attract, and support Mills Gallery and all the arts in Central Florida. We thank you. Thank you, Amber. We'll see you guys so soon. Bye, everybody.
Yes, please. Have a great one.
You too.
Bye.